During World War II, Nazi Germany built one of the most ambitious defensive structures in history, the Atlantic Wall. It was meant to turn Europe's western coast into an impenetrable fortress, stretching from the icy shores of Norway down to the beaches of France and beyond. But why did Hitler build this enormous line of defense? How effective was it against the Allied forces? And, ultimately, did it play a role in the outcome of the war? Join us as we unravel the history of the Atlantic Wall, its purpose, its weaknesses, and the role it played in one of the most crucial moments of World War II.
It's 1942, and Nazi Germany's war machine is dominating Europe. But as the tides of war begin to shift, Hitler faces a growing fear, an Allied invasion from the West. To protect his empire, Hitler makes a bold decision to fortify Europe's entire western coast. From the icy fjords of Norway to the beaches of southern France, Hitler envisions an impenetrable defense system, the Atlantic Wall. The wall wasn't just about defending territory, it was about preventing a disaster. Hitler knew that a successful Allied landing could unravel everything the Third Reich had conquered. So, he ordered his forces to build what he believed would be an insurmountable barrier. This was all part of a larger plan. Hitler wanted to make Europe a fortress, an impregnable stronghold where no invasion could penetrate. The Atlantic Wall was meant to send a clear message to the Allies: you'll never breach this fortress. But as we'll see, building this colossal defense wasn't as easy, or as effective, as Hitler hoped. Building a wall to defend an entire continent? Not an easy task. To make Hitler's vision a reality, the job fell to one of Nazi Germany's most notorious organizations, the Todt Organization. Led by the Todt Organization, the Atlantic Wall became one of the largest construction projects of World War II. Thousands of bunkers, gun emplacements, minefields, and anti-tank obstacles were built along Europe's western coast. But the scale of the project presented massive engineering challenges. And much of that labor wasn't voluntary. The Nazis used forced labor, prisoners of war, resistance fighters, and civilians from occupied countries to construct the wall. These workers toiled under brutal conditions, building fortifications that were supposed to stand against the Allied invasion. Despite the grand plans, the wall was plagued by issues. The construction was rushed, and corners were cut. Some areas were fortified with state-of-the-art bunkers, while others were left with little more than basic defenses. In the end, the Atlantic Wall was never fully completed. Hitler's ambitious plan to create an impenetrable coastal defense fell short. And while parts of the wall were strong, other sections were weak, leaving dangerous gaps in the defense. The Atlantic Wall was a massive undertaking, but rushed construction and the use of forced labor left it vulnerable, and as we'll soon see, these weaknesses would be exposed when the Allies made their move. The Atlantic Wall wasn't a single, unbroken line of defense, but rather a patchwork of heavily fortified zones, strategically placed along Europe's western coast. The wall was designed to stop an invasion from land and sea, using a variety of defenses. Massive concrete bunkers housed powerful artillery pieces, ready to rain fire on any approaching ships or troops. These bunkers were accompanied by vast networks of minefields, both on the beaches and underwater. Thousands of anti-tank obstacles, known as Czech hedgehogs, were scattered across the sands to prevent Allied vehicles from moving inland. Alongside these defenses were machine gun nests, trenches, and barbed wire, creating a deadly gauntlet for any invading force. The goal was simple: slow down the enemy, trap them on the beaches, and destroy them before they could push inland. But here's the catch: the Atlantic Wall wasn't a continuous barrier. It was a series of fortified areas, with the strongest defenses concentrated in key locations like Normandy and the Pas-de-Calais, where the Nazis believed an invasion was most likely to occur. This patchwork approach left certain areas exposed, and as we'll soon find out, it was these gaps in the wall that would prove fatal when the Allies launched their invasion.
June 6, 1944, D-Day. The day the Atlantic Wall was put to the ultimate test.
As part of Operation Overlord, over 150,000 Allied soldiers stormed the beaches of Normandy in the largest amphibious invasion in history. This was the moment the Atlantic Wall was built for, to stop an invasion dead in its tracks. The beaches of Normandy were heavily fortified. Allied troops faced everything the Atlantic Wall had to offer: machine gun nests, artillery fire from concrete bunkers, anti-tank obstacles, and vast minefields. But despite the wall's size and strength, it had weaknesses. The Allies had meticulously planned for months, gathering intelligence, misleading the Germans about their landing site, and launching a surprise attack under the cover of darkness. Once the Allies hit the beaches, they quickly exploited the gaps in the wall's defenses. The Atlantic Wall was strong in some areas, but other parts were incomplete, hastily built, or undermanned. With sheer determination and coordinated attacks, the Allies broke through. Within hours, the Atlantic Wall had been breached. The German defenders, though fierce, were overwhelmed by the scale and coordination of the Allied assault. Despite years of construction and thousands of defenses, the wall couldn't stop the invasion. The Atlantic Wall, once seen as an indomitable barrier, had failed in its mission. Operation Overlord marked the beginning of the end for Nazi Germany in Western Europe. The lesson? Even the mightiest walls can fall when faced with strategy, bravery, and overwhelming force. Even the most formidable defenses are only as strong as the strategy behind them. And for Hitler, the Atlantic Wall wasn't just a barrier, it was the key to victory. Hitler believed that the Atlantic Wall would be enough to stop any invasion. Nazi propaganda hailed it as an impenetrable fortress, a symbol of German strength. But this overconfidence would lead to some of the biggest strategic mistakes of the war. Hitler's blind faith in the wall lulled the German high command into a false sense of security. He was convinced that the Allies wouldn't dare to challenge such a powerful defense. This over-reliance led to critical errors, including his refusal to move reinforcements quickly enough when the invasion began. On D-Day, as the Allies stormed the beaches of Normandy, Hitler delayed deploying his panzer divisions, believing that the Atlantic Wall would hold off the invaders long enough. By the time reinforcements were sent, it was already too late. Hitler's misplaced confidence in the wall's strength and the effectiveness of his defenses led to catastrophic consequences. His belief that the wall could stop the invasion without rapid mobilization left the German forces scrambling to recover. In the end, the Atlantic Wall wasn't just a failure of engineering or defense, it was a failure of leadership. Hitler's overconfidence in his fortress led to one of the most significant strategic blunders of World War II. The Atlantic Wall, once thought to be an impenetrable fortress, now stands as a reminder of Nazi Germany's towering ambitions and their ultimate failure. After the wall was breached, the liberation of Europe began. Allied forces advanced through France, pushing the Germans back, and one by one, the occupied territories were freed from Nazi control. The wall, which was supposed to stop the Allies, had crumbled under their relentless push. Today, the Atlantic Wall remains a powerful symbol, not just of Nazi Germany's military might, but of the futility of its defenses. Bunkers and fortifications that once stretched across thousands of miles now stand as monuments, museums, and memorials, telling the story of a regime that tried to build an empire too vast to defend. In a way, the wall is a testament to both human ingenuity and the limits of that ingenuity. Built with immense effort, it was undone by the Allies' strategy, determination, and the realization that no wall, no matter how vast, can hold back the tide of history. The Atlantic Wall's legacy is one of both ambition and failure. It stands as a reminder that even the mightiest defenses can fall, and that the walls we build, whether physical or ideological, are not always enough to secure victory. The Atlantic Wall was conceived as a colossal defensive structure, meant to protect Nazi-occupied Europe from an Allied invasion. Its construction, involving massive bunkers, minefields, and obstacles, reflected the grand scale of Hitler's ambitions. Despite the effort and resources poured into its construction, the wall ultimately failed to hold back the Allied forces. The D-Day invasion exposed its weaknesses, and the wall was breached in a dramatic and decisive manner. The Atlantic Wall stands today as both a symbol of the Nazi regime's overconfidence and a reminder of the limitations of even the most formidable defenses. It was one of the largest military projects in history, but in the end, it couldn't stop the tide of the Allied invasion. The Atlantic Wall serves as a powerful reminder that even the mightiest defenses can fall. What do you think? Was the Atlantic Wall a strategic failure, or was it simply overwhelmed by superior Allied tactics? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into history.